Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Princess Diana, the people's princess, captivated millions with her grace, compassion, and fearless spirit. But her life, and ultimately her death, are shrouded in shadows that continue to spark questions. On that fateful night in Paris, what really happened inside the car speeding through the tunnel? Why were crucial details overlooked or hidden? Official reports told one story, but behind closed doors, unsettling clues, mysterious figures, and untold events hint at something much more complex. Join us as we dig into what they never wanted us to know: the secrets, the controversies, and the hidden truths surrounding the tragic end of Princess Diana's life. This is what they never told you about the death of Princess Diana, the making of a modern icon. The princess journeyed from a life of aristocratic origins to become the people's princess. Born as Diana Frances Spencer into Britain's nobility, this was a life of privilege as well as one of family obligation. Her childhood was an influence of history and tradition in Althorpe, her family's ancestral seat. But Diana was known more for her quiet, almost unassuming nature. She was discreet and retiring, with an early evident display of sympathy and kindness that would later distinguish her in public. Her life took an enormous turn in 1981 when she married Prince Charles, catapulting her to immediate international prominence as a member of the British royal family. All this made Princess Diana undergo a rather brutal initiation into the highly demanding life of a princess. Everybody adored her elegance and beauty, but for Diana herself, she was sharply isolated within this strict framework of the royal institution. Her marriage was nothing like the fairy tale that the world had envisioned. Behind all the curtains, she had to bear pressures of fame, a troubled relationship, and her own battles with mental health. Yet amidst all this, Diana's warmth and relatability soon began to resonate deeply within the public, and she used her platform to speak out about social issues the monarchy often looked over. What made Diana truly revolutionary was her commitment to causes that had long been ignored or even stigmatized by society. In an era when AIDS was highly misunderstood and patients were often shunned, Diana was among the first high-profile figures to publicly embrace and show compassion to AIDS patients. Visits to hospitals, association with the homeless, and her campaigns against landmines portrayed royalty in one form that was vulnerable and empathetic and, of course, human. For a princess who broke these royal norms by touching everything and everyone with her, it was possible for her to reach out to all humanity and make her the famous people's princess. As her power grew, she became a symbol of modern compassion and resilience, where royalty would be able to connect on a deeply personal level. Her relationship with her 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, brought into limelight her efforts to introduce a more compassionate, more grounded approach to royal parenting. She brought them out often to see the world beyond palace walls, giving them an ordinary life experience. Diana's legacy goes a mile beyond her beauty and elegance. She redefined what it meant to be royal by shaking up traditions and inspiring millions with her kindness, courage, and vulnerability. But just as Diana began to carve out her own path, a new romance would sweep her into the spotlight once more, promising the freedom and passion she'd been searching for. A love story in the spotlight, Diana and Dodi Fayed. It was a global romance between Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed, as if from a real novel. Diana was entering into a new chapter of life during the summer of 1997, seeking happiness and independence after her very public divorce from Prince Charles and a marriage that was so publicly known for its troubles. Into this scene walked Dodi Fayed, charming son of Egyptian billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. Dodi was into jet-setting, celebrity friendships, and had the eye for luxury. That would attract media attention intensely, and when he began going out with Diana, it was like the whole world was fascinated. It then became a spectacle to some extent, because what otherwise could have been a secret relationship became the topic of discussion for the entire press corps. Their romance unfolded under the intense scrutiny of the press, from intimate moments on Dodi's yacht in the Mediterranean to glamorous evenings out in Paris. These images were rapidly splashed across tabloids around the world, and every gesture and look fired headlines about a possible fairy tale romance. This was, after all, a woman who had long attracted media attention. Yet those around her claimed that she felt more at peace and free with Dodi, who made her forget the turmoil surrounding her life as one of the most recognized women in the world. Diana and Dodi's love affair had social and cultural connotations. Dodi was an Egyptian Muslim who went against the expectations and tradition of the British public and the royal family. It was even fantasized that their affair would have not been so well accepted by the establishment if it had occurred, and yet another intrigue was found. While there was widespread speculation about the seriousness of Diana and Dodi's relationship, no confirmed engagement was ever announced. This cross-cultural relationship was seen to represent Diana's preparedness to leave the past behind, to lead a life according to her desire rather than public and that of the king's opinion. As they spent their last few days together, Diana and Dodi appeared to grow closer, sharing a private and secluded holiday, away from the intense scrutiny they had faced. Thus, they secluded themselves in the French Riviera and later Paris, but in trying to leave their pursuers behind and seek some peace, attracted much media attention, where now each of their steps created a headline. On August 31, 1997, the world witnessed the sad story of the couple after both of them were unalive by a car crash in the Parisian tunnel, allowing the entire world to go through grieving and asking itself what could have been done. The secret: was Diana really pregnant? Probably one of the most nagging controversies and questions left to surround Princess Diana's sad demise is whether she indeed was pregnant with Dodi Fayed's child or not. As public interest picked up on the budding romance between Diana and Dodi, rumors spread fast that a pregnancy was a result of this new romance. The press speculate wildly and report that Diana seems to be showing subtle hints and an undeniable glow. Friends of Diana later said that she had confided in them about dreams of having even more children, and had confided with them about the desire to expand her family. Media frenzy ensued when a tabloid and newspaper ran stories about the prospect of a royal heir with an Egyptian Muslim father. Pregnancy rumors gained momentum from accounts of the couple's last days together, especially the romantic vacation on Dodi's yacht and the private time they spent in Paris. People reported seeing Diana with a slight bump, and some even said she had never looked happier. This idea of a possible pregnancy created a sort of conspiracy and tragedy attached to Diana's passing, causing lots of questions about what more could be hidden. The idea of pregnancy also evoked a lot of the theory behind the slaying. In fact, even the father of Dodi himself, Mohammed Al-Fayed, made public declarations regarding Diana and Dodi's intentions to get married and give the world a little inheritance together. However, each of the official investigations into her death has stated that Diana was not pregnant. According to forensic scientist Professor Angela Gallup, who toured the scene and examined the remains of Diana, it has been written in one of her books that no HCG, a pregnancy indicator detectable within days of conception, was present in the samples taken from the car. Despite these findings, some argue that Diana's body was embalmed too quickly after death, possibly obliterating the crucial evidence. Embalming too soon after death has been a focus point of conspiracy theorists who feel a cover-up occurred, that a pregnancy could have complicated the story of her death. The question of Diana's pregnancy remains one of the most debated aspects of her story. Although science would say that she was not pregnant, the mystery of her last days only satisfied many people with official explanations. Mohammed Al-Fayed's continued belief that his son and Diana were destined to be together only fueled public interest and aspersions against the official accounts. It really added a very personal touch to Diana's last days. Whether real or imagined, this pregnancy made her death appear even more tragic and gave the world a lot of what-ifs. The final summer getaway, the French Riviera. The The summer of 1997 was the last one Princess Diana spent on holiday to the French Riviera, accompanied by Dodi Fayed. It was freedom for Diana, her chance finally to break free from the shadows of royal obligations and media scrutiny that had pursued her for years. The Riviera, with its coastline and private beaches, was a perfect haven. Smiling, relaxed, and apparently happy, Diana was photographed aboard Dodi's yacht in a far cry from the guarded image she had so often been portrayed as during her royal years. Pictures of the couple enthralled the public, further increasing public interest and speculation about their romance. This idyllic holiday, however, was soon turned into a battleground for aggressive paparazzi who stopped at nothing to get every intimate moment on camera. From the excursions on their yacht to quiet dinners in exclusive restaurants, every move made by Diana and Dodi was documented. Paparazzi camped out near the yacht, hiring boats and even helicopters to snap photos from above. These images, splashed across tabloids worldwide, turned a private romance into a spectacle. Diana, accustomed to life in a lens, was well aware of the invasion, but sought to focus on the precious time she spent with Dodi, something few chances came her way, if at all. Diana saw this summer trip more as a declaration of her independence. To most people, taking her summer vacation with Dodi, an Egyptian Muslim of high-profile family background, was a very bold statement. The decision by Diana to openly pursue a romance with Dodi seemed to portend a new beginning, a life on her own terms. Pictures from the vacation came to represent freedom, and rumors even circled that the couple might be considering an engagement. Some people asked themselves what marriage with Dodi would have meant to the royal family and to Diana's public image, another turn of the complex tale of her life. Ending their Riviera vacation, Diana and Dodi traveled to Paris, a city of love, but one that would become the scene of a tragic ending. They had dinner at the Ritz Hotel in an effort to spend a last peaceful evening together. Instead, the paparazzi swarmed even closer to increase their chase. Escaping into a car driven by Henry Paul, they sped out of the hotel from under the flashing lights that had been a constant presence around them. It was this desperate attempt for privacy that had them plunged into the underbelly of the city, inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, where the world was to lose the people's princess and her companion, who'd brought the world a sense of a short-lived solace. The last night at the Ritz, a perfect storm of circumstances. The last night of the life of Princess Diana had started quietly enough at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, owned by Dodi Fayed's father, Mohammed Al Fayed. She and Dodi had flown out from the French Riviera, hoping for a little brief respite from the relentlessly pursuing paparazzi. However, no amount of money could keep them from the probing eyes of the press. The photographers found them when they were dining in the imperial suite of the hotel and wanted to snap one final picture of the couple. With the mounting pressure, it became next to impossible for them to escape unnoticed. Knowing the paparazzi would wait for them, Dodi and Diana decided to exit from the back door of the hotel. Then, Dodi asked Henry Paul, deputy head of security at the Ritz, to drive them to his private apartment, as they assumed the late-night journey might go unnoticed by the media. Suddenly, their driver for the night was to be Henry Paul, a seasoned security officer with connections within both French and British intelligence. Rumor had it that Paul had been drinking earlier in the evening, a detail that would figure controversially into the eventual investigation of the crash. Slipping out of the Ritz, Paul accelerated the car so as not to be pursued by the paparazzi, who had apparently been informed of their new plan. A convoy of photographers on motorcycles immediately gave chase, and the high-speed chase took them through the streets of Paris. The tension increased as the Mercedes approached the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, where the narrow lanes and sharp curves make speeding very dangerous. The witnesses described the chaos in which a black Mercedes was weaving its way through traffic, circled by photographers on cycles that seemed not to have stopped chasing every second of the desperate attempt of this couple to flee. That which was meant to become a strategic escape became, in the end, an absolute perfect storm of all circumstances, which ended tragically. When Paul made his way into the tunnel at full speed, the car lost control and crashed onto the 13th pillar of the tunnel. Impact is devastating. The crash would unalive Paul and Dodi instantly and leave Diana extremely injured. Pursuit of paparazzi, escape at a high speed was a plan that, had the unprepared staff in the Ritz Hotel chosen otherwise, may have proved fatal, for it made something that would otherwise have passed as an innocuous night one of the most chilling tragedies of recent history. It was left to the world to wake up to the news and mourn and question how such a quest for privacy could so terribly spiral out of control. Amid the chaos of that final night, one man's decisions would become the subject of endless scrutiny, casting a shadow over the events that followed. Henry Paul's role, the enigmatic driver. Other than Princess Diana, the most mysterious figure of this story is Henry Paul, deputy head of security in the Ritz Hotel. He was respected for being very loyal and professional. He worked for over 10 years there and had been entrusted by Mohammed Al Fayed to accommodate his high-profile guests. On August 31, 1997, Paul was suddenly requested to drive Diana and Dodi in a last-minute decision intended to throw off the paparazzi. This sudden change of roles from security officer to chauffeur would make him a central figure in the investigation of the accident. One of the most controversial aspects of Henry Paul's role was his alleged intoxication that night. Official reports said his blood alcohol level was 3 times the French legal limit, raising immediate questions about his fitness to drive. However, CCTV footage at the Ritz indicated Paul walked steadily and calmly interacted with the hotel staff, a detail that has fueled doubts about the accuracy of his blood test results. Others counter that an old drinker like Paul must have had hidden signs of intoxication, while others argue that the levels reported do not match his behavior on camera, leading to claims that toxicology results had been tampered with. Adding to the mystery were suspected ties to intelligence agencies for Paul. He was later discovered to have connections with French and British intelligence, which had been a speculation of many that he could be under surveillance or even as part of the plot. Financial investigations followed the accident because investigators found that in the months leading up to Diana's death, there were several unexplained cash deposits into his accounts. These only fueled theories that Paul could have been working as an informant or had been paid to aid in some larger hidden agenda. However, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to support these claims, leaving his motives and potential connections unresolved. Another point of speculation is Henry Paul's role in the tragedy. Whether he was simply a mistaken employee in the wrong place or a puppet in a much bigger play, such decisions on such a fatal night have indelibly marked Diana's story. His decision to drive that car, the decision to accelerate in that tunnel, and the final decision not to take one of those roads where there were some photographers chasing his car was part of this terrible series that led to the slaying of Diana. Ever since, Paul's life has been torn apart, his motives called into question, and his legacy bound to one of modern history's haunting mysteries. The car with a dark past, Mercedes-Benz S280. That night, the Mercedes-Benz S280, which carried Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed on their final journey, was a far cry from an ordinary luxury car. Rather, it had a history that was marred by accidents and mechanical problems that would have been red flags a long time before that ill-fated night. The car, a pool vehicle used by the Ritz Hotel for VIPs, had been stolen in early summer, driven wildly, and returned with serious structural damage. The repair, and its passing to be considered serviceable, an error perhaps many people think directly caused what follows, was never re-examined, not that day at least. But there was more to the history of S280 than the damage to its metal bones. It was known to have serious mechanical issues, especially in steering and braking, which are most important in the event of safety at high speed. Experts who later analyzed the car found that it was a death trap, its compromised brakes and alignment issues that would make it almost impossible to control at high speeds. Such a car chosen for an important couple like Diana and Dodi has not gone very well, with few blaming it as the failing of security and management within the Ritz. While Henry Paul sped through Parisian roads in a Mercedes-Benz S280, fleeing the following paparazzis, on August 31, 1997, its constraints proved fatal to him and his passengers. According to the eyewitnesses, it was reported that the car entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel while driving at very dangerous speeds. Already compromised brakes and misaligned steering would make it hard to control this car under any circumstances. High-speed chase pressure does not make things any better. This meant that when the car finally crashed into the 13th pillar of the tunnel, the faulty mechanics only served to heighten the intensity of the impact and resulted in the fatal accident, which took 3 lives. The sordid past of the S280 has now taken center stage in both investigation and conspiracy theory. Several people believe that a car with such a terrible past could not have been simply an oversight. How could a Ritz, a luxury accommodation, fail to provide one with a safe, serviced vehicle for such a significant guest? It raises questions about whose fault it is, and perhaps a case of negligence. This then makes many wonder, is this a deliberate choice? Or is it just circumstance that became part of possibly one of the most tragic car accidents in recent times? The white Fiat Uno and the blinding flash. One of the weirdest details surrounding Princess Diana's final hours is related to the white Fiat Uno and the blinding light which some witnesses claim to have seen just before the fateful crash. In one of the Mercedes-Benz S280 that is known to be carrying Diana and Dodi inside it, they were speeding through the tunnel in Paris, referred to as Pont de l'Alma, when a white Fiat Uno was said to be erratically moving close to that vehicle. Eyewitnesses reported that this small car greatly contributed to the tragic events, as some claim it actually made contact with Diana's vehicle, which eventually caused the Mercedes to lose control and hit the pillar. The Fiat Uno and its driver were never identified, despite extensive investigations, adding mystery to the tale. One especially chilling detail was that several eyewitnesses reported seeing a sudden blinding flash of light immediately before the crash. The flash illuminated the tunnel and blinded drivers in the vicinity, including Henry Paul, who was driving Diana's car. Many people have come to speculate that this bright flash was not an accident, but possibly something manufactured by a military-grade flash gun, used deliberately to blur Paul's vision and make him lose control of the vehicle. Such a theory only has led more people to speculate that the death of Diana was no accident. The white Fiat Uno became at the center of numerous conspiracy theories, as no concrete evidence was ever found to locate or identify the car, or more importantly, the driver of the car. Some investigators believe that this car was owned by James Anderson, a photographer from France, who they claim to have followed around Diana and Dodi as they visited France. He also owned a white Fiat Uno similar to the one used by the paparazzi, and his association with the paparazzi, which was under scrutiny before the accident, made them suspect him of involvement in the accident. Even if Anderson said he had not been in Paris during the accident, his later death under circumstances declared taking his own life only fueled public debate. The white Fiat Uno and the blinding flash are two of the haunting mysteries surrounding Princess Diana's death. They symbolize the undetermined variables of that night, making people ask themselves what actually happened in the last instances before the crash. Was the Fiat a mere accident, or had it willfully joined in that calamity? Was the bright flash coincidental, or was it an intentional occurrence that would make the car crash? These unanswered questions haunt the narrative as the world grapples to ask if critical pieces of evidence were missed or suppressed in the haste to close off one of the most tragic chapters of history. The paparazzi pursuit. When fame turned deadly. The relentless pursuit of Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed by the paparazzi marked a tragic culmination of years of media obsession with every move Diana made. One of the most photographed women in the world, Diana had long been subject to very intense media scrutiny, photographers vying for the smallest glimpse into her life. This was exacerbated by the furore surrounding her liaison with Dodi. Now photographers would search for even one fleeting glimpse that may somehow reveal the charm of this princess's new affair. Days prior to the fateful event, headlines about tabloid fodder seemed filled with romantic getaways with Dodi on his yacht, and the intimate scenes found their way into print newspapers and magazines worldwide. This media buzz provided a background for an intense chase on the streets of Paris. On the evening of August 31, 1997, it was already nighttime as the paparazzi lay in wait outside the Ritz Hotel in Paris in anticipation of Diana and Dodi's exit. Dodi and Diana, eager to avoid the throng of photographers, opted to slip out from the back, and Henry Paul, deputy head of security at the Ritz, took the wheel of the car to drive them to Dodi's apartment. However, word leaked out quickly, and by the time they left the Ritz, a posse of paparazzi on motorcycles was hot on their tail. The photographers followed the Mercedes very closely and veered through traffic and closed in on the car in an attempt to get photos of the couple through its windows. The chase was hot as the paparazzi ran over the lines of safety to stay near the Mercedes. From eyewitness accounts, it was an extremely high-speed car chase down the streets of Paris. Motorcycles whizzing past the car, taking pictures by flashing their cameras. These flashes were also coming towards Henry Paul, while the Mercedes approached the tunnel of Pont de l'Alma, which might have distracted Henry Paul when he navigated the car through a dangerous route at top speed. The chase climaxed into a fatal crash as the car entered the tunnel. With despairing attempts to get through the paparazzi entourage, Paul lost his control, and the Mercedes crashed into a concrete pillar, instantly unaliving Paul and Dodi while leaving Princess Diana critically injured. Events following the accident did no better to soothe anger from the public towards photographers. Instead of running around to help people, at least some photographers reportedly would take pictures of the remains, capturing Diana's death for money. This heartless behavior led to international condemnation and a renewed debate over the ethics of celebrity journalism. Eventually, French authorities detained several photographers for questioning, but no one was held accountable for their actions that night. The tragedy led to calls around the world for tighter privacy laws and new regulation within the paparazzi industry. Diana's death was the last consequence of fame gone too far, a turning point that made the media face its zealous pursuit of public figures and the lethal consequences it can produce. In the wake of the relentless pursuit, haunting questions lingered, casting doubt over the official story and leaving the world grasping for answers that may never come. Legacy of suspicion. What the world may never know. Princess Diana's tragic death leaves a legacy of unanswered questions and lingering suspicions that once again continues to captivate the world. Over multiple investigations and official conclusions that her death was the result of a terrible car accident caused by moving at high speed, intriguing circumstances revolving around that night have inspired a series of conspiracy theories and alternative explanations. From the strange white Fiat Uno to the blinding flash in the tunnel, every little bit of mysterious detail is adding fuel to the idea that there could be a great deal more to this than what was told the world. Even after many decades, the death of Diana continues to be an eye-catching spot for all who believe the whole truth never came to light. All these combine to an enduring suspicion that perhaps Diana's life and death had threatened to some at the top of the game. She was outspoken on everything, a controversial and free-spirited marriage maker, always ready to kick over some of the hallowed rules of her native royal class. She had become one of its favorite daughters, and many hypothesize, a dangerous figure. Diana herself famously said that she felt she was being watched and feared that she might meet an untimely end, hinting in interviews that certain forces wanted her silenced. The negative feeling, along with the early untimely death, has left the public psyche in quite a place, giving rise to theories that perhaps it was not an accident, but the culmination of a carefully planned thing. Unsolved enigmas that official inquiries failed to answer added to the legacy of suspicion. Why was the process of embalming so quickly initiated, which destroyed the most critical evidence? Who was driving the Fiat Uno, and why can it not be identified clearly? And what was Henry Paul's supposed connection with intelligence agencies in relation to the events of that night? Official inquiries into these issues have only increased public fascination, making room for questions and doubts that continue to haunt her story, while each new fact, credible or speculative, adds another layer to the mystery which keeps the world questioning. As we close this chapter on the mysteries surrounding Princess Diana's tragic story, the questions and intrigue remain as powerful as ever. What do you think really happened that night in Paris? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. And if you're ready for more captivating stories, click on the video shown on your screen now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.